Welcome to Meet the Author, where you can join in on insightful conversations with best-selling and award-winning indie published authors. Your hosts today are Rob and Joan, who themselves are indie published authors, book publicists, and paranormal investigators with Tampa Bay Spirits, based in Tampa Bay, Florida. Thanks for dropping by. And now, on with the show.
Hi, I'm Rob.
And I'm Joan. Welcome to the show. We're so glad that you could join us today. I hope everybody's doing well, that you're all healthy and happy. We're healthy and happy.
Yeah.
Hope you are too. Remember to like, share, follow, and comment. We love all of your comments and appreciate you tuning in today.
Yeah. If you haven't commented before, make sure you make comments, say hi. Let us know you're here, if nothing else.
You're here.
Our shows, we do strive to stimulate conversations that are going to help people, not just promote book sales. We want to hear the story behind the stories of all the authors. So with that being said, our second author tonight is DIANNE ASTLE, and she's a fantasy author, dragons and all that, and it's time travel too. She does some science fiction that way. So that's something to look forward to in the second half.
But real history in the time travel.
It's real history weaved into the time. Yeah,
yes.
Into the timeline. So that should be interesting.
Let me say hello to James. Hi, James. Glad that you're here. Hey, George. Hi-ho. It's off to podcast we go.
Do.
Welcome, George.
Okay. And with that, we'd like to introduce our first author, and it's none other than Mike Murphy. Mike, welcome aboard.
Hi, Mike.
Wait a minute.
Oh, I got it.
There you go.
You had
Good
muted
job.
yourself.
Yeah. Thank you for having me here.
Oh, it's great to
Glad to have you.
Great to see you. You've got some interesting books.
Well, I hope so.
Yeah.
No, you definitely do.
They are.
How did you get started in writing?
I've always written, even as a kid. Had a couple of high school teachers to really encourage me to think that I might be able to write. But then I became a newspaper reporter, and I was a reporter or editor for about 30 years. And so I did a lot of writing in that, obviously. And then I retired from that quite some time ago and took another break. And when I was 60, I decided to try once and for all and see if I could write anything longer than a short story. And so it's been a long but really nice learning process, and I've enjoyed it thoroughly over the last 10 years.
What was the first book that you wrote?
The first book that I wrote was really bad.
Oh,
Well, we don't want to talk about that one.
No, it was the embryo of my time series, and
okay.
I didn't really know much about the disciplines of writing fiction, novel-length fiction. So I made a lot of mistakes in it. And the name of that was About Time. And it sort of, that's where the characters came from. But I've hidden that away. I'm trying to get back all the copies anybody may have gotten.
So if you have anyone, please send them
Send them right over.
to Mike. And this is what it became, though: taking time, wasting time, and killing time, right?
Right. It's my Physics, Lust, and Greed series. It's humorous time travel science fiction.
Yes.
Sounds good. Sounds like it could be humorous with the...
We were just talking about some people never studied physics when they went to high school, apparently, because they have no idea how long it takes for a large vehicle pulling a large vehial to stop.
Right.
And they cut you off.
Pull right in
you're
front of you. Hey, there's a space, I think. I'll fit in there.
Yeah.
Oh, good. Thanks.
Physics. We thought we'd never use it. We use it every day.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. Plus, there's an amazing amount of fiction hidden in physics.
Boy, that's
especially quantum physics, which is
absolutely string theory.
Yeah, just weird stuff.
It's so weird, and it's a serious science study.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah, multiverse,
Mm-hmm.
It's amazing what is out there.
Yep. Well, that's the core of my series is the multiverse, parallel universes, and the implications of that for big corporations and big governments who think they can use time travel for profit by altering the past to their advantage. But it doesn't work if there are parallel universes, because you don't go to your own universe when you travel through time. And that's pure quantum physics.
Here we go. Jan says, sorry she's late, but
You
we're
are
glad
forgiven.
that you're here now. It's going to be a good show.
There you go. So you got another one called The Con Man?
Yes.
That's a sports-oriented.
Yes. One of my passions is baseball. I have played amateur baseball all my life, and I still play, and I have a partnership association with the Roy Hobbs Adult Baseball organization, which is centered in Fort Myers, not very far from down the coast from you.
There you go.
Far at all.
And through the process of my baseball business, I've met a number of really fascinating people, and one of them is a pitcher named Keith Comstock. He pitched 16 years professionally, and finally making the major leagues about 10 years too late, and had a very nice season and a half before confronting an injury that forced him to quit. And the book is based on his story, his career. It's an incredible story, and it's how it starts out with a guy who's been totally focused on a single goal since he was 7 years old, having to face the idea that he can't do it anymore, and okay, who am I now?
And I think that happens a lot in
I do
sports.
too. Yeah.
Oh, yeah, it does. It does. And over the course of his career, he did some very funny things, and is just a wonderful person. And one of the great things about being a writer and doing these kind of books, even though The Con Man is a novel, it's based on his career, and the main character is a guy named Connor Nash, and his baseball nickname is The Con Man because of that name.
That makes sense.
But it's kind of a little bit of a double meaning too, because he has so many ups and downs in his career that at one point one of his coaches, who's based on a real and very famous Hall of Famer, and he get in a fight, and after the coach tells him, "Boy, you sure were named right. You've conned people into thinking you're a pitcher all these years." So anyway, he's lived an extraordinary life, and it was my great privilege to get to know all the details and get to know him very well, his wife very well, her life struggling through the minor leagues and all that sort of thing. I just, it's a great experience to get to know people that way.
Yes, definitely. Especially when I think that it looks to us like they're having such a great time, and it's blood, sweat, and tears all the way.
It is.
Yeah.
All of us minor league amateur baseball players, when you're young, you think, boy, wouldn't it be great to reach the majors or be a professional or be that good? And I'm not sure for most of us it would be, because it is a brutal grind, and the mental toughness it takes is as rare as the physical ability.
Yeah, I don't know that it's worth it.
So tell us a little bit about Section Roads. That's an interesting title and cover.
Section Roads is my favorite book. You like them all. They're like children. You're supposed to like them all the same. But Section Roads is about the little town where I grew up, and about some of my experiences as a kid. And again, it's a novel, and it's wrapped up in New Mexico culture, Eastern New Mexico culture. And it's fiction, but there are a number of biographical elements. And it's the story of four friends who continue this friendship through their lifetimes, in particular, a boy and a girl who, fall in love in high school, break each other's hearts a couple of times, and then go out into the world and connect at every 10 years at reunions. And there's a murder wrapped up in it as well.
Oh, no.
That's
two murders, actually.
Oh,
that's what makes it interesting.
yeah, that does, really, doesn't it? Your covers are amazing. I've really liked your covers ever since you, joined Indie Book Source,
Well, DeMonza does my covers on these books. They did not do the one on the newest one, but on all of these they do, and they do a wonderful job.
Speaking of the newest one,
this looks more like a mashup of an old album cover in a new show, right?
Right.
Yeah.
It's EPUB did this cover, and it was just so different. It couldn't be anything abstract about it. It needed to show the guys, and that's the core of the story, their mistakes and things of their youth, and then the joy of coming back together when they were older, 20 years later, when they were older, and could put a lot of things beside.
So the genre is biographies of folk musicians. Basically,
yes.
Right?
Yes, it is. It's the only nonfiction book that I've done. And again, it was the same as when I dealt with my friend Keith. These guys had a huge influence on me, and a huge influence on literally thousands of members of our generation, people who grew up in the 60s. They were, of all the folk music groups, of all the people that emerged in that really wonderful 10 years from 58 to 68, they were the best. Vocally, harmonically, they were the best. And people really don't argue that. They didn't have the commercial success that Peter, Paul, and Mary had, or those groups like that, because of the material they chose. They chose to do satire. They chose to do political commentary, social issues commentary, and controversial enough that basically radio and TV wouldn't play their stuff. When they appeared on radio or television, they played, just these really beautiful folk songs, and they did those very well. But that wasn't the core of who they were. They were terribly popular on college campuses, though. And so in that era, their songs, the material they chose, and the way they presented them woke a lot of us up to what the world was really all about, and to political commentary, to politics, to social issues, and social justice issues.
Yeah, the stuff you're not supposed to talk about.
Right. Right.
So Lisette says, heard all of the Chad Mitchell Trio albums growing up.
Yeah, they were.
And George Dismuke says, I agree, they were the poets of the 20th century. And Trish Pipkins just popped in saying, hello, Facebook had locked me out, finally got back in. We've had that happen with a number of the audience. I don't know what Facebook is doing. Facebook, wake up.
Yeah.
Let these people in. Try
YouTube.
The YouTube channel.
Yeah,
if you can't get in through Facebook.
Yeah, try YouTube next time.
Well,
if anyone's having trouble.
like my relationship with Keith on the baseball stuff. Now, these were guys that were hugely important to me as a kid, growing up in the middle of nowhere. And now I've spent the last 3 years really getting to know them.
Yeah. So you've met Chad, right? Chad has a strong input into the book.
Oh, yes. Yeah. Chad and Mike both live here in Spokane, where I live. And so it was easy for us to get together. When we were working on it back in the summer of 2018, I'd meet with them together once a week, and then with each of them separately once a week. And again, I've really enjoyed getting to know them. They're very, very interesting people, and it's again, that's one of the cool things of writing.
Yeah, most people don't get that kind of a chance to see people that they grew up admiring, that were famous, let's see. I think we should get your
I'll do it.
Get your
all right. For those of you that would like to connect with Mike, and I hope it's all of you, his Facebook is mike.murphy.author, and that's MikeMurpheyaUthor
with a dot in between.
And so, yes, I said that the first time, but just to make note that Mike spells his name Murphy, unlike some other Murphys, which he explained the difference to us. And it's interesting because I'm from an Irish Catholic family, and I have family members that are Murphys who do not have an E.
No E for you.
And Mike explained that's because they were Catholic and not Protestant. So that was the difference. You can also find him on Twitter at Mike Murphy Boo1, and that's BOO, the number
They
1.
ran out of K's when he was signed up for Twitter.
Or you can find him on LinkedIn at MANDNMUR. Mandenmuir. Mandenmuir? How do you pronounce that, Mike?
Mike and Nancy.
Mike and Nancy Murphy.
Okay. I thought it was some ethereal place somewhere.
It had to do with physics and the multiverse.
There you go. Well, you could use it now.
Okay, this one's important. This is his website, MikeMurphyBooks.com. Of course, that's MikeMurphyBooks.com. And the reason... Pardon me?
Go straight to the banner because this will wipe out. So
okay,
go all the way down to the banner.
Well, first of all, I want to do his email is mike@MikeMurphyBooks.com, and that one is really important because you need to email there if you want to win.
So we're gonna
the giveaway
put that
tonight
right here right now, and
we're gonna put the giveaway
the website
up
back up.
There you go.
So the giveaway. As soon as it comes back around, the book giveaway, here it comes, book giveaway. Here. The first 3 people to email will win an ebook of choice from MikeMurphyBooks.com. Okay, so, that's an ebook of choice from the website.
One of these.
But email him at his email, which is right there, MikeMurphyBooks.com. That's where you email to, and then you'll get the choice of the books.
Of whichever book that you want.
Right.
Okay, we have another comment. Let's see. Oh, Trish says that's a good town name. LOL. Mandenmuir.
Mandenmuir, Alabama.
Yeah, it sounds like an Irish place.
Okay.
Irish village.
There you go.
It does sound like an Irish village. Our books are about 2 Irish protagonists, and they're, one's named Siobhan. And when people were reading it, the beta readers, they said I don't think you should name the heroine that name because I don't know what it means. Is it Swedish? And I'm like, sorry?
Swedish.
Of course, we have a son named Sean, so Siobhan is not a big deal to me. But then I grew up in, Irish Catholic town in Boston, Massachusetts. Okay, Trish thinks probably hobbits live there at Minden. We're not Irish. Maybe some leprechauns, Trish, or fairies from the fairy ring.
So, Mike, while everybody is busy emailing you at this point, do you have anything new on the drawing board?
Yeah. There's a fourth book in my time travel series, Physics, Lust, and Greed series. It's I suspect it'll be out sometime next summer, probably June or July. So that's the first draft is done, and now it's just polishing up, and I'm got the bones of a fifth one. I can, yeah. I'll do a couple more of those, and then I got to take a break and do some other kind of book.
Yeah.
In between those.
Did you like doing the nonfiction as a break from the other?
I did. It's it takes me back to my newspaper reporter days, really.
Right.
Because it's a lot of that. You got to interview a lot of people. You got to look at a lot of sources, all that sort of thing. There were some things, a lot of these things occurred 50 years ago, earlier in their career, and there were some things they just couldn't remember. Well, did that happen then, now, or did it happen later, or what? And some of that made a difference to the story. So I had to do a fair amount of research to try to track down when those things really were. So yeah, it was nice. Although I do have to say that by the time I got done with it, I was looking forward to just making things up again.
There you go.
Well, of course, in the 60s, everybody's memories are hazy.
Yeah, to a certain extent. But
yes.
Yeah, the crux of the story, the thing that I love about the story is that Mike and Chad are two polar opposite personalities. They could not be more different. And they didn't realize any of that when they started because they didn't know each other well. They just sang together in the Gonzaga Men's Glee Club and were sort of thrust together. And as time went on, they discovered the differences, and there became, conflicts grew. And Chad left the group in 1965, and neither he nor Mike mourned the parting. They were glad to be separated. And that's when the trio hired John Denver to take Chad's place. And that was, of course, John Denver's big break. And then for there to be this 20-year gap where they literally didn't see, talk to, or really think about each other, and then be brought together in a reunion situation was amazing, because they walked into the room not seeing them and Joe Frazier, the third member of the group, not having seen each other or talked to each other for 20 years, and picked up the music just like it was yesterday. And it was because the music and its quality and creating the harmonies and all those things they did was always sacred to them. They never let that intrude on their other personal conflicts.
George says that John Denver was a good friend of his, a scuba diving buddy.
There's some interesting story chapters there on John, on John's time with
I was a scuba diver in the 60s, which was unusual for a woman.
Yeah.
But not with John Denver
and
or
I
George.
dove, George. I dove with a twin 50 tank. Yes, I was a serious scuba diver. I used to go spearfishing in caverns. But What I was wondering about, if you could tell us, is how were they polar opposites? I mean, were they polar opposites politically, or?
No. They went to New York City to get a recording contract, and they were political neophytes. They really hadn't had any political thoughts. They grew up in small places. Mike in Trail, British Columbia, Chad in Spokane, Washington, which were both very conservative places then. And, that was a part of stuff that didn't occur to them. Well, they met, Milt Oken became their musical director, and Milt was very much to the left. Milt had a strong feeling that folk music should say something, that this new era of folk music was a possibility for music to be more significant than it had been in a while. And so he shaped their ideas. So politically, they were on the same page. Musically, they were on the same page. But Mike is a very focused, very much a planner. When he left the trio, he had everything planned out for him, where he would go, what he would do, how he would take care of his family. He moved to Spokane. He came back to Spokane. He became a pillar of the community. He was director of entertainment facilities for the city for almost 30 years, all that kind of thing. Chad was the golden boy in high school. He was the best athlete, the best singer, dated the prettiest girl, did all that kind of stuff. But hidden inside of him were a lot of conflicts. And his path after the trio quit, he embarked on a solo career, which he did not really in his heart want to do, but his friend and manager wanted that for him, so he did it. But he ended up going to Mexico and discovering marijuana, and then
He had to go to Mexico?
well,
He did not go to the college that I went to.
Well, see, that's the other thing. He never went to college. He sang on college campuses, but he didn't graduate from Gonzaga. And that's one point he makes. I spent 10 years on college campuses. That's what I knew. That's who I knew and what I did. But he literally did not have time when they were touring together, doing what they had to do and doing all the stuff they had to do to make money and contact, to get into any mischief. Really, there was just no time. It was all completely focused on doing what they needed to do in the travel and the concerts.
They should have been getting contact highs, though.
Well, they may have. They may have. And certainly...
It wasn't as open, though.
Yeah. And certainly amphetamines.
Amphetamines
intruded.
Amphetamines were huge in the 60s. My doctor put me on them. Well,
Joe Frazier ultimately became addicted, and that led to his dismissal from the group because he started missing stuff when it was Mike and John Denver and Joe. But no, Chad, being a very bright guy and an entrepreneur, decided he would delve into smuggling marijuana, and ended up getting caught and spending a little bit of time in a federal prison.
Wow.
Oh boy.
So and again,
that is different, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. It really is different. And, and there are some aspects of the book, the Chad part of the book, that Mike is really not very comfortable with. So, but one of the nicest reviews that we gotten early on, it was someone who talked about, well, I was expecting just another sort of whitewashed, happy story about, we went to this concert and we did that. But he said this felt like it was a real honest, true look at that life and at those conflicts and at that ultimate resolution, and that it was a sort of restored his faith that a shared passion could overcome whatever personal conflicts there were, and that's really the truth. That's really what the book was about and what it did.
James says, what a story. And that's true. That's really sounds like an amazing book, Mike, because of everything that you just said. I mean, they really were, back in the 60s, I think especially of 1968, of everything that was going on and everything that we went through. And it was really an awakening for our generation into politics that was completely different from our parents, who had all fought in the Second World War and didn't understand why their children were saying, get out of Vietnam.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Mm-hmm. And there's one other thing, if we have a minute, that I'll mention that's really cool about this is, in the course of all our research and doing all this, we discovered a song that the Chad Mitchell Trio recorded in 1963 that nobody's ever heard. And on September 9th, we'll be releasing that song.
Really?
People can get it.
Wow.
Yeah. That's awesome.
Does it have a title?
Yes, the title of it is The Ballad of Murder Incorporated.
Woo, that sounds cool.
Do you remember who Wally Cox was?
Oh, yeah.
Of course. Mr. Peepers.
Yeah, and the top left-hand guy on Hollywood Squares.
Hollywood Squares.
Well, Wally Cox was also a writer and a comedian, and he wanted to do a book making fun of this controversy that really was important, or was a big deal in folk music, was who really are folk and who really have the right to sing these songs. So he was posing as an academic, as somebody who was teaching a class about who are folk and what is folk music.
Yeah.
And so he suggested that folk music does not have to arise in the mountains and the woods and the sticks. It can also be folk traditions in the cities. And so this is a song about a guy in Brooklyn who sings this Ballad of Murder Incorporated. Well, he hired the trio to sing on the record. The record never got out of the studio. RCA never did anything with it. And somehow Mike got the sole demo copy of it that existed. And so we took the song off of that, and we've got the rights, and we're properly licensed. And so we're going to be releasing it.
That's exciting. Trish says Hollywood Squares, Zoom before Zoom was a thing. pretty
prototype.
Much everybody's like we are right here, right now, actually. Yeah, that's really fascinating, and it's so true. But that happens today. I mean, my gosh, you should hear our grandsons who are in their 20s talking about what's really emo and what's really hardcore, and who really is emo and who isn't emo.
Who's sincere, who's not, who's just doing it for the money.
Yeah.
Right. Poppy, they just are in it for the money. Everybody's in it for the money.
Yeah, you got to live, folks.
You have to eat.
Some are just better at getting the money than others.
But when you're in your 20s, you don't think like that.
Yeah, that's right.
You're more altruistic.
The great thing for me with this is I've gotten to immerse myself in that music for the last 3 years, and
wow,
that's cool.
It's I like all kinds of music, but
me too.
That's my favorite. It's what I grew up on. It's what was important to me when I was a kid.
Trish says it's great that music was not lost, and it will be shared with the public. Can't wait to hear it.
Yeah, me too. It's going to be fun.
Guess what? We get to hear some commercials now. I know you all been waiting for that. Thank you, Mike.
Thank you.
Wonderful. Stick around here. And,
hold on.
Don't go anywhere. And when we come back from our 2 to 3 minutes of commercials, we're going to have DIANNE ASTLE on the show, and she'll be popping up.
Dragons, everybody that's been waiting for them.
Here they come. Time traveling just
love it.
Time travel and dragons.
Yes.
Separately.
Yes.
See you in a couple minutes.
At Indie Booksource, you can shop by genre or by author, and you will be buying direct from the author's main purchase link. We offer hundreds of titles in formats that include ebooks, paperback, hardbound, and audiobook. Support an indie author. Visit indiebooksource.com today.
Oh, yeah. Life just got sweeter now that WLFE DB has merchandise. Show your support by purchasing your t-shirts for WLFE, Paratalk Radio, Inside the Drag Closet, and more. But it doesn't stop there. T-shirts, coffee mugs, tanks, buttons, cloth bags, and more. Go to WLFE-DB.com. On the top bar, click on the merchandise tab and bam, there you go. You got merch. Support the shows. WLFE-DB.com.
Enter a universe of scream demons, magic, sign language, and adventure. Join two teenagers struggling to overcome their disabilities as they embark on an interdimensional journey with Master Fantastic. Travel with them through portals to other worlds, most of which are only a spell away. Unfortunately, so is evil. Master Fantastic is an inspiring story of overcoming tragedy and rising above difficult circumstances and childhoods. Suitable reading for young adults and up. Available now on Amazon.com and IndieBookSource.com from master storyteller Jesse Frankel. WLFE Digital Broadcast Network presents Variety Unlimited Television. Watch shows like Meet the Author Podcast, The Bipolar DM, Just Cindy, Card Pulls and Coffee, Unfiltered Talk with Bryce, and more. That's right, our shows are your shows on WLFE Digital Broadcast Network. And now, back to the show.
Hello.
Welcome.
Hello.
How are you?
I'm not bad, thanks. How are you?
We're really good. James said that was a fast 30 minutes, which it was. And Trish says, yay, dragons, with a picture of a dragon. It's exciting. It's exciting for me because I love dragons too.
So, Diane, how did you get started?
Well, unlike Mike, I had never dreamed of being a writer. It had never crossed my mind. And I actually had learning disabilities that made writing difficult for me. So when I graduated from high school, I graduated without knowing the times table and with spelling that was so bad that it was terrible. So anyway, somewhere in my young adult life, I decided that, hey, I needed to prove to myself I wasn't dumb. So I took two high school classes to redo my grade 12. And so I did English and social studies. And a few years later, I applied at UBC here in Vancouver and as a mature student. I think it's kind of miraculous that they let me in because I think my writing was incredibly bad, but they let me in. And so as I started to write papers for university, I would sit with a dictionary on my lap. This was just prior to computers, and look up things like the word there. Was it IE or EI? Mm-hmm. So it was quite challenging. But I went on to university and then did a master's level program. And I discovered that what I really liked to do was take a subject and research it and write a paper on it. For example, I did one on multinationals and the global competition for jobs. And I did another one on fashion magazines, the worldview in them and their impact on women. And I quite like doing that. So I'm going to move ahead a bit to working on the prairies. I had a job. I graduated with an MDiv, so I was working in a church as a minister. And I had been working too many 60-hour weeks. So I decided to go to a retreat center and take a course. And the course was on writing fiction. And I thought, oh, that should be easy. And everything
sounds like a snap.
I didn't want to take any Bibles classes or anything. I just wanted to take something fluffy.
Yeah, fluffy.
Be that fluffy. It was hard work.
Yeah.
But on my way home, I had the idea for Ben the Dragonborn. So now I'm working 60-hour weeks plus writing a book on the side. The book took me 8 years to write. It wasn't all that well done when I finished. I ordered a whole bunch of copies, like 40 print copies. I was so thrilled with it. Just to have someone say to me, Diane, do you know there's a lot of mistakes? A lot of grammar and spelling mistakes, And here I thought that I'd come so far, there wouldn't be any problem at all with it, But I had really no plan to write anything more. But there were two things that happened, I think. One was that I was getting reviews from strangers, and they were saying things like, I really love this book, and I can't wait for the next one. And I think, what next one? And the other was, I felt a sense of obligation to the characters. I just really felt that, the characters deserve to have a voice, they deserve to live, and I had to do this so they could live. So those were the two things that happened with that.
That's so funny, the way we all become, our characters are living people.
Yeah.
They're our children, and they certainly have a voice of their own. They have a direction they want to go in. I mean, they'll take you places you didn't intend the book to go. I mean, it's amazing to me.
And you see the book on the shelf there, and you know that they're carrying on their story, within the confines of that paper,
So after Ben the Dragonborn you next wrote Ben and the Watcher of Zargon or Zargon? How do you say that?
Zargon is how I would say it.
Zargon, me too.
Zargon.
But you should know because you made it up. Then Moses and the Dragonborn. And that's, it is your word, so we'll pronounce it the way you do.
Yeah.
But really, what an inspiring story, though, Diane, that you overcame a learning disability.
Yeah.
And were able to become not only a minister, but an author of fiction books and write something that touches people.
Well, I've had like in 1968, which you were talking about, it was interesting because I was into the drug scene. And I hitchhiked out to Vancouver, from Edmonton to Vancouver, and ended up living on the streets for a while.
Wow.
Then I got on welfare, which I'll tell you is no fun. After I worked as a live-in nanny, and she made me wash the floor with a toothbrush.
What? That doesn't happen.
Yeah.
It did. Wow.
It happened.
That was in 1968?
It was in 1968. And
Wow.
I was pregnant and alone on the streets of Vancouver. So
wow.
I've had a lot of life experience,
There you go.
George Dismuke says, yes, most definitely a writer does feel an obligation to their characters. Well put, Diane. And it is very well put and very true. You know what? I was a nanny for a while. It was a little bit different. It was to the Salton Stalls, which are Boston Brahmins, and I lived in houses with museum pieces that would rotate out of the museum to the house, and then
that's kind of the anti-story.
Yes, it's an anti-living on the streets with Diane's story.
Yeah.
But I was a nanny.
I didn't enjoy it at all, but
No.
But since then,
Lizette says, wow, what an amazing story, Diane. What a cruel person with the toothbrush. Right, Lizette? Some people, God bless them.
That's just
what can I
horrible.
Say? Since then, I've been a draftsperson, draftsperson, I can't remember the other term, and a teacher's aide, and a news correspondent for a radio station, all without specific training. So my life has been really very fortunate. And
And full.
been an awesome journey. Full, yeah.
And now you find yourself in an idyllic town with fabulous people in it, and you're very happy there.
Yeah.
Right?
Mike, I live north of you in BC in the town of Hope.
We're familiar with that. We sail up there, and it's one of our favorite places in the world.
Oh, I love being on the ocean. I love deep sea fishing, and have caught a 78-pound halibut.
Wow.
SS says, what incredible life experiences you've had. Any wonder your characters are so well-rounded.
Yeah.
Well said, SS. I don't know what your name is, so I'm going to have to call you SS.
We'll call you SS.
SS. Well, that's how
Because
she wants to be known.
Your name.
Yeah. I believe it's one of your readers, is my guess.
Maybe one of the ladies on my writer's critique group.
That could be.
That could be.
Yeah. A wonderful thing about Zoom is you can have writers' critique groups with people around the world.
Yes. Isn't that awesome?
So
you've got, you write about dragons, and that's awesome.
Yes,
but you also
very awesome.
Write about time travel.
That's interesting how that came about. The church that I was serving used to have a Black History Sunday. And so I was quite curious about that. And I wondered if any of my relatives had been slave owners. So I'm fortunate to have some information from my family in the southern states. And so one of them had a will where he was disposing of his slaves that he legally and something else owned. He was quite into, defending his right to own slaves. And his grandson, I think it was his grandson, not his son, had become involved with the Primitive Methodist Church, which was opposed to slave ownership. And family lore tells us that he became part of an early rendition of the Underground Railway. And so I was very taken with this grandson of this guy that was slave owning. And he fought on the American side of the Revolutionary War. And so I was very fascinated with him and decided that I wanted to tell his story. Now, in some sense, I wish I would have done it in a more straight up way, but I did it as part of a really unrealistic romance story where one of my main characters is a theoretical physicist who is a professor who teaches at Vancouver and develops this time traveling ability. So,
before we go much further, and you can expound on that a little. Let's get your book giveweigh going.
Oh yeah. And I'm sorry, I've been so interested in everything that was said.
What we're going to do here, the book giveaway, is the first 4 people to email astled@tellus.net will win an audiobook copy of Ben the Dragonborn. Okay, first 4 people to email astled@telus.net will win an audiobook copy of Ben the Dragonborn. Okay, so everybody get your fingers going. There we go.
And that's through Author Direct, but you're able to download the app onto your phone or your iPad or whether it's a Google phone or
And you can let Diane know if you have any trouble. She would be happy to help you.
While you're paused here, I want to say that SS did say, good guess, Diane. So she is from your group. And Trish Pipkins says, I've been fortunate enough to visit BC and it's stunning. One of your book covers looks like it's from BC. Yeah, I've never been. I've been
close. We came close.
We lived in Oregon for a while, but we never got up to BC.
Never got north of Portland.
Yeah.
No, we never did.
The world kind of stopped there.
We didn't even get to Mike's neck of the woods.
No.
But let me also do this. Whoops.
Uh-oh.
Sorry.
Okay, there you go.
Yeah, you guys couldn't see the mistake I just made, but that's okay. Here's Facebook. You can reach Diane at Ben the Dragonborn. On Twitter at Ben Dragonborn, and it's BenDragonborn. Her website is benthedragonborn.com. Okay, and here's
And we
the
got the
email,
email up there already,
astled@telus.net. Okay, go ahead. Sorry to interrupt you. Go ahead if you can remember where you were with the story. I remember if you don't, so.
Anyway, I really enjoyed placing my ancestor in American history and in the events that were happening at the time. I quite enjoyed doing that. So I may do some future historical fiction, but we'll see.
Also, there's Charlin the Rogue Watcher.
That's the last book out in the Ben the Dragonborn series.
Yes.
Is that your newest book, or is Larkin's?
Yes. No, I think Larkin was before Charlin the Rogue Watcher.
Okay.
Because I went to write Larkin when I got stuck with the Ben the Dragonborn series. I didn't know where to go. But there's a certain politician who inspired me to write Charlin the Rogue Watcher, who will remain unnamed.
But we probably all know who he is.
So, yeah. And so anyway, I found that when I was first writing Ben the Dragonborn, like I was just writing a story. I wasn't thinking of any message that I wanted to give to people. But the message that came through it, and probably through my ministry as well, was the importance of being true to your own true self. You know, being who you authentically are. And, so I've found that that's something that's really important to me to communicate, but be yourself, be true to who you are. Yeah.
I think it's really important. I think it's not something that you can just decide one day that I'm going to be an authentic person and true to myself. It takes work.
Yeah.
It takes a lot of work and a lot of introspection and deciding to, we can all be honest and be true to who we are without being obnoxious.
Yes,
some people seem to think it means you need to be obnoxious, but you don't.
Well, and the important thing is to let others be true to who they are without trying to micromanage their lives. And yeah.
Okay, we have a question from Trish.
Yeah.
What has helped you with fixing errors in your books? One reason I'm hesitant to write is it seems so daunting.
And I think maybe after Diane, if you answer, Mike could
put his 2 cents in.
His 2 cents in, since you both spoke about that with having problems with that. So.
Well, for me, it's particularly challenging because of my history. So when Ben the Dragonborn came out, there were a lot of mistakes in it. But for future books, like for the next 2 books, I hired a content editor that was very good at, suggesting things that I could do differently, whose name is Alex McGilvery. He was very good. And then the other thing I did was join a writer's critique group. And for a while, I was driving in every 2 hours to Surrey to be part of that writer's group. And now it's so much easier just to do it on Zoom.
Sure.
And SS from Australia can participate.
There you go. Australia.
Oh,
great.
Australia. Robert, who said hello to us earlier, is from Australia. Also, he's from Queensland. So SS and Robert, say hello to each other.
Fellow countrymen.
And Mike, did you?
Well, editors are really important. When I finish a book, it's amazing how many typos, how many mistakes, anything like that are there that you just don't see because you're you're too close to it to see, and you
Yeah,
need
you don't
somebody
expect
who
to
is
see
out.
them. Yeah, yeah.
My editor is a woman named Laura Taylor, who was a very prominent romance writer in the 70s and 80s, and she's been invaluable. And writers groups looking at having other people read your stuff is very important. But the daunting part about writing, I found writing daunting too, because I never thought I could get beyond a short story. And the reason is I thought I had to know how it was going to end before I started. And I'm not an outliner. I can't do it that way. So the way I overcame that and did it is I just said, I am going to write 500 words a day, good, bad, or indifferent. I don't care what it is. I'm going to do that, and I'm going to do that every day, and then see what happens. And eventually in that, a discipline emerges. You figure out a lot of stuff, and your characters become very compelling and take you away.
Yeah, and 500 words sounds like a lot, but once you get going, it's not really that bad.
Two double spaced typewritten pages.
Yeah,
and if
really.
you do that once a day, 5 days a week for a year, you've got a book.
Yeah, yeah.
It's interesting. We've had like over 40 writers, authors on the podcast now, and it's so interesting how many people are outliners and how many people are not. And it's like, we are not outliners. There's just like I said earlier, no, I know you're not, because of what you said about your characters, because they have a life of their own, and you try to bring them ways that they shouldn't go, and it just isn't true to their authentic selves, and they're not having it. So yeah, but I know that some of our authors have said that they don't start writing a book until they know the ending. And once they know the ending, then they can write the book. And I'm like,
so it's like, that's your goal.
Wow.
It would be difficult for me. I couldn't do that.
I never know the ending when I start a book, actually.
I know.
Matter of fact, sometimes it's hard to part with the characters,
Just
or
stop.
It's like, how do I make you stop?
Yeah.
It's like, I hate to leave you, but
George says, okay, yes, George, my secret to writing is rewriting and rewriting. Absolutely true. I think Paul Hollis the other day said, they tell you to write what you like to read. And he said, but after I've rewritten it and reread it 3,800 times, he said, I don't like it anymore. And I agree.
Hire editors, but the other thing I do is have my computer read my book to me.
Oh.
And that picks up some things that I would otherwise miss.
Oh, that's clever.
That is clever. That's good.
Another thing that helps with that is you reading your book aloud. When you read it aloud, you can pick up some things too. But it is very helpful to hear it in someone else's voice.
Yeah, we read it back and forth to each other
and see how it sounds.
Robert says, if I were to write any book, it would probably read like a technical manual. I am terrible with character dialogue. I bet you could get past that though, Robert. Yeah. And Lisette says,
why don't you write a technical manual?
I can't start a book if I don't know how it will end. He can write about so many interesting things though.
I know.
I can't start a book if I don't know how it will end. And Paul said, great idea, I believe, to what you had said, Diane, about having the computer read it to you. And Lisette said, yes, having the computer picks up a lot. Yes, like the difference between dose and doze.
Right.
And you go, doe.
Dope.
They dozed. They didn't get dosed with something.
Right. Yeah, that's one that popped up.
We did. Yeah.
DOSE and DOZE.
For Lisette, it picks up extra words and missing words. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yes.
That's for sure.
And the wrong word.
Yes. Yep.
So, Diane, Mike, do you guys have any questions for each other or comments? You guys both time travel, so
I know. Isn't
it's
that
kind of crazy.
interesting? Yeah, I think it's great.
Mhm.
Well, my time travel is it's fairly reality based, sort of. I mean, I don't spend a lot of time explaining the process, but there is a process and all that, and it's more of a scientific undertaking. I don't really know how to describe it, but I like historical time travel fiction very much too. So there's been some great books.
Yeah, which is right where Diane is.
Yeah.
My last book that I listened to as an audiobook was by Stephen Lawhead, and it was multiverse travel.
Like Mike
Yeah.
writes.
We talked about, yeah.
I find it fascinating, because it is a true science.
Mm-hmm.
So is a poetry book multiverse? No. There's lots of verses in poetry.
You're welcome, SS. Thank you.
The
Have you follow us?
did you know? And I asked when I talk about taking time, the time travel stuff, when I'm giving a presentation, one of the things I always ask is, are you aware that one of the great love songs of the 20th century was based on Albert Einstein's theory of special relativity?
No, I didn't know. Which
No, what
song
would that
is
be?
it?
Okay. Well, I'll let you decide if you know. Here's the start.
Are you going to sing?
No.
Oh.
The day and age we're living in gives cause for apprehension, with speed and new invention and things like fourth dimension. Yet we get a little weary with Mr. Einstein's theory, and we must get down to earth again, relax, relieve the tension. So no matter what the progress or what may yet be proved, a simple fact of life, is something that rhymes with proved. So tell me the next line of the song.
Don't know.
Don't know.
Trish says the standard love song.
No. You must remember this: a kiss is just a kiss.
Oh,
a sigh is still a sigh.
No.
The fundamental rules apply as time goes by.
As time goes by.
Wow.
The fundamental rules apply as times go by. Now, see, I know you must remember this.
Yeah, see, nobody ever. That's the introduction. That verse is the introduction. And back in the 30s, when it was written, all songs had that kind of a flowery introduction into them that are a lot of the great songs. But nobody sings that part of it when you hear it.
No, I've never heard that, and I would never have guessed that in a million years, because that is from the 30s. I remember the movie. Robert White says, Doc Brown, you're not thinking fourth dimensionally. Back to the Future. Yeah, I'm sorry, my mind is like now blown, because all the next words to that song now all of a sudden make a lot more sense than they did.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I've always loved that song, but gosh. Trish Pickman says, I don't like most poetry, but love music. And when I was in my 20s, realized music is basically poetry set to music. True that.
See, it is multiverse. It's poetry.
I'm not sure about, hard middle, if that's poetry.
It is.
I hear a lot of screaming.
Yeah,
that's what our parents said about our music.
There we go.
Oh yeah, they sure did. George Dismuke says that was because of time. DJs are more apt to play songs of 2-minute duration or close to that. That is true, and that was because they wanted to get more on their shows. Brad would beg to differ. He's a big metal fan. I know. And you know, Trish, that we've been to a lot of metal shows and had metal bands sleeping in our house on the floor, and we'd step over them. And yeah,
Those
when they
were
were
the
all
days,
getting
my friend.
started. Listen to a lot of metal. Believe it or not. But
So, Mike, do you have any parting advice for the listeners, for the readers and authors to be out there in just a couple of 2-3 sentences?
The key to writing is to write.
absolutely.
The simplest way I can
Succinct.
put it.
Yeah.
Well put. How about you, Diane?
I really don't know that I have any advice. I struggle to write. I struggle to carve out time for writing in a life that is full of other things. So,
Well, I think what you've
I'm a
said
author.
tonight
Yeah.
is advice.
Mhm.
Okay. And I think it will be encouraging to a lot of people.
But that is encouraging, Diane, because you are a minister, though I know that you're now semi-retired,
Yeah.
but you're still a minister. And as you said, you're a potter and you're a writer. And so that is really wonderful because that's encouraging to all of us that have full lives and have a lot of things going on to keep writing.
And you've
keep on
overcome
trying.
disabilities. So
Oh,
Yeah.
listen to what Robert says. I have started reading Ben the Dragonborn on the website, Diane.
Well, I don't know that it's all that great on the website, but yeah, I did that for a while.
And Marjorie Deering says, yes, those other things. Yeah. Oh, I don't think a writer has a choice. A writer writes, period. And that's true. And you know what else a writer does, George, is they read. I mean, if there's nothing else to read, I'm going to read a toothpaste tube. You know, I always need to be reading.
If I wasn't writing, I would spend more time fishing, which I enjoy, and more time golfing, which I enjoy.
Really?
golfing too. Wow.
Golfing and fishing. That's interesting.
My last book before the one I'm writing now is actually literary fiction. So, and it's about a 57-year-old white supremacist who's got a drinking problem, who discovers he has Black grandchildren.
Ta-da.
But I haven't.
What could go wrong?
published it.
George says that's good because I just sent you a book. I know, George, and thank you. And I'm looking forward to reading it, Siren
Yes.
Song, which will soon be a movie.
And that reminds me, we need to give a shout out. I don't think she's watching tonight.
No,
But
she's
Cheryl-
busy celebrating.
Cheryl Payton's birthday today.
Happy birthday,
And
Cheryl.
she was in episode 18. So if you want to check out Cheryl, you can check her out there and on indiebooksource.com.
Lizette says that sounds fascinating, Diane, and I agree with her 100% because, you know, what could go wrong?
Exactly.
An alcoholic, white supremacist, KKK with Black grandchildren. Yeah.
Just finding out about it. Yeah. Woo.
Trish says, happy birthday, Cheryl.
I think
Yeah.
she's out celebrating right
With
now.
her
but
husband.
She'll probably watch the show
Yeah,
later.
she'll watch it later. And we can all say happy birthday to her.
Yes. We're not going to sing.
No.
So we're going to wind up things, I think.
Yep.
And
It's been a
So we're
great
gonna-
show.
push you guys over. Here we go. Ready? Let's see. I got to go the right way. Wink. There we go.
He did do it the
I
right way.
did do it the
can't-
right way. That
I
was
can't
crazy.
do-
I can't back up a
do
trailer,
that.
but I can do that.
I get all mixed up about up, down, which side is which.
Do you have some things you would like to say?
Well, I would like to tell you to continue to watch WLFEDB.com. We have Variety Unlimited, where you'll find our show, and LGBTQ Friends, where you will find the show that follows our show called Inside the Drag Closet. And then you will also find Paranormal View, which is close to our heart because we are paranormal investigators. You can now watch us on TV, on the YouTube for the radio station, which some of you are listening to us right now. And if you're having trouble getting in, why don't you try the YouTube like James did?
Yeah, try YouTube.
Paul Hollis said, another excellent show. Thanks, everyone. You know, it really was, Paul, because the authors and our audience are so amazing. That's what makes the show great. James Ricard said, another great show. Thanks, Mike and Diane. Yes, thank you so much. You've been wonderful. And Trish Pipkin says, yes, great show. Love getting to know both of these authors.
They're great people.
As did we. Yes, it was fascinating. Everything that Diane went through is fascinating. Jen says she loved listening and learning. Me too. And Diane was so inspiring, overcoming learning disabilities to have such a rich life after going through some things that could have made people just quit, like having to clean a floor with a toothbrush.
Oh my gosh, yeah, I can't get over that.
Which kind of sounds like our military back in the day when I was not in the military, but when I knew people in the military. Thanks for a great show. Enjoyed it very much.
Thanks for watching and listening.
For watching and participating.
Participating,
we enjoyed that.
For sure.
We appreciate everybody's participation.
So next week.
I also wanted to say that, Mike, I really, really enjoyed learning everything that you had to tell us about the Chad Mitchell trio.
Absolutely.
Because
it's fascinating.
Isn't it? Yeah, and really I could really relate to that because, well, you know, that was my era, and that's when I was awakened to a lot of things that actually Diane touched on too, about, you know, the disparity between white and black and between the haves and have-nots that I hadn't noticed until people like Chad Mitchell Trio came along and woke me up and said, hey, pay attention. Okay, go ahead.
So next week, next Wednesday, need to be here. Episode 22. Next Wednesday, we're going to have Tampa's own psychological thriller author, Sandy Will. She's the author of Caging at Deadwater Manor. I can't say it, but I don't want to go there either. And also multi-genre author Richard Cesar. He's the author of the sci-fi novel In the Robes of God. He's quite a interesting author.
I think a lot of you probably know him.
He's been hanging around for a while.
He's been around for a while.
It's going to be on next Wednesday. So
we're not saying he's old.
Tune in. No, we're not. So at any rate, we are going to disappear now, I think. And until next time.
That's all, folks.
Thank you for joining us here on Meet the Author. Make sure you stay up to date with our show by clicking like, follow, and share. And you can find us on Spotify, iTunes, and more. See you next time on WLFE-DB.com.
You've been listening to WLFE-DB.com, where our shows are your shows.